Hey everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome back to my subscribers. This is Bald Guy Money. I am Bald Guy, and today we are talking about the inevitable collapse of the current financial system and why Bitcoin, silver, and gold are the best ways to protect yourself from this collapse. Happy Easter to everybody who's celebrating Easter today, and please watch this video to the very end if you want to know the best ways to protect your nest egg on this Easter holiday. I'm sorry, I had to go there. As always, none of this is advice, and I ask you kindly right now to take a second to wish me better health via the like button. I've really been struggling to get back into form, but I think some good vibes from all of you will help me get there and also let YouTube know that you like content like this and you think other people should see it. So, now that that's out of the way, fiat currencies, whether the dollar or the euro or whatever it is that's native in the country you live in their current forms, they are all debasing under the immense pressure of rapid supply expansion. Meaning simply, governments got wild and printed way too much money during the C-19 pandemic. And I want to take a moment right now, just before we get into the solutions and how to protect yourself from this, into really how bad this situation has gotten. Take a look at this. This chart shows official US inflation data over the past year. Now, we know that this data is manipulated. Goods that are measured in here are regularly replaced by government statisticians for cheaper alternatives to keep the inflation figures down. For example, if the cost of beef goes up, and it has gone up, in fact, it's more than doubled in the past 5 years, the Bureau of Labor Statistics in its infinite wisdom says, well, beef at $20 per kilogram is too expensive. People are probably substituting it for chicken, which is about $3 per kilogram. And of course, because a McChicken sandwich tastes just as good as a T-bone steak. And what they say is, we'll replace one with the other because gas, housing, education, healthcare are things that don't have substitutes, and we need to keep this number down as much as possible. So, what we can safely say about this record inflation, the highest since the early 1980s, is that we're probably looking at numbers that are double what you're seeing in the official statistics. We today are closer to 20% inflation than we are to 10% inflation, and it's an absolute tragedy. And if you're someone who works a job and has a lot of savings in cash, then I'm telling you right now, you are a victim of theft. Theft in the form of inflation caused by an expanding money supply, because the more dollars they print, the more of whatever currency it is you hold that governments print, and it's governments all around the world that are participating in this, the less valuable the currency you hold is worth. Now, some of you might be saying, but Joe Biden said back in January that large businesses are keeping prices up and that's what's causing inflation. If that is what you believe, I need to make you aware of this right now. You need to look at this chart. This chart is from the St. Louis Federal Reserve showing the M1 money supply. And the M1 money supply is the most liquid form of money, like cash, savings, deposits, and other things easily exchanged for cash that exist within the economy. The supply of that M1 money supply quadrupled right here in March 2020. This vertical move here, and it has continued upwards since then, and this data right here, this is straight from the Federal Reserve. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is nothing to point the finger at anybody in particular, because everybody who had a hand in policy making, whether in 2020 or 2021, is just as guilty as the other party. And this is how bad the situation has gotten. We are in dire straits, people. And know this, no politician is going to save you from the continued damage this is going to cause, because they can't stop this. We are at a tipping point right now. Free money and money debasement is thousands of years old, and it always leads to the same thing, a collapse of the monetary system. It's not new. And despite there being different opinions on how soon that is going to happen, some people out there are saying that this is going to happen within the next 5 years. Some of you who watch me on a more regular basis know that, in my opinion, we have about 10 to 20 years left in the current monetary system as it exists today. It doesn't matter who's right, it doesn't matter who's wrong, it all brings us to the same place. And here is a guy who many of you recommended I check out. This is Joe Brown from Heresy Financial, and I checked him out, and thank you very much for bringing him to my attention. He absolutely nailed it in one of his latest videos. I will link it up in the description. And in that video, he talks about how things get repriced when a currency fails. Now, I don't want to repeat everything that he said in this video, but I do want to bring your attention to his message in a nutshell. So, the steps of a currency collapse are like this. Number one, an alternative currency becomes a payment option. It doesn't become the main thing that's used, but it becomes an option. So, for example, you see a lot of celebrities and athletes saying, I will accept part of my pay, not in US dollars, but in Bitcoin right now. This is what this begins to look like. And it's not a death sentence for the currency that is being currently used per se. Once we get to level 2, where the prices of things start to be priced in the alternative currency, that means we've reached a level where the previous currency that things were priced in, so the national currency that you're used to using, has become so volatile that in fact people who are selling goods in the market are not even willing to price things in that currency, and they start using the alternative that had been used in step 1. That leads then very quickly usually to step 3, which is the market stops accepting the local currency altogether. And number 4 is that the local currency becomes totally worthless, and people within that market, people within that country, choose an alternative currency to replace the one that they had been using up until that point in time. And this is absolutely true because we've seen it time and again. Whether we're looking at Eastern Europe, when a lot of countries there were making their transition out of communism into a free market capitalist kind of economy, a lot of those countries back then ditched their local currency and chose to go with the German mark. We also see that on the African continent today in countries like Zimbabwe, which has had wild inflation, and they've basically ditched their local currency to use the US dollar. And we even see that in Nigeria, which has been increasingly losing faith in their government and their local currency. And you see a lot of people using Bitcoin as a way to settle payments within the economy. And this is exactly why I say it is important for you to own some Bitcoin, gold, and silver. And the reason that I've been saying it since my very first video. And spoiler alert, for those of you who are new here, the reason is not because I think you will be transacting in gold and silver or Bitcoin. Anyone who has watched me for more than a few months knows that I don't believe this. The real reason I say this is because no matter what form of currency we use to denominate things in, it can be the euro, it can be the yuan, it can be the dollar, it can be fake currencies that people said on YouTube we were going to move to 10 years ago, like the Amero. It can be anything you think it's going to be. But gold, silver, and Bitcoin are hard monetary assets. And no matter what system we exist in, they will continue to have value due to their utility and their scarcity, which essentially locks in the value of your capital at the moment of purchase. Now, please let me explain that. So a lot of people out there, maybe even you, believe in a narrative that once the financial system collapses, you will be buying food with silver dimes, fractional gold pieces, or maybe even peer-to-peer Bitcoin transactions. And on a small scale, that might happen, at least in the short term. It is possible. But the problem with assuming that at a larger scale is that it doesn't follow the same pattern that we've seen historically that Joe alluded to in his video, but didn't fully touch on, and that is this. This is the currency cycle, which basically sees the rise of a currency based on trust, the fall of that currency once the trust is broken, and the replacement of the old currency with a newer, harder currency, and the subsequent repetition of the cycle. Now, why this is important to understand is because as long as money has existed, this cycle has been valid. It existed even in the Roman times when gold and silver coins were used and circulated, because people in power then were debasing the currency by mixing the gold and silver in with different metals. So it doesn't matter what the system looks like. It can be a gold-backed system. It can be a fiat-backed system. At the end of the day, this cycle has historically held true. All the while, gold and silver coins, real estate, alternative assets, they all continue to hold some value in whatever currency comes along, independent of the currency cycle, because they have objective value due to the real and scarce nature of an asset. And that's why I always tell people that it's important to convert your money into assets. And I can't make a gold coin appear out of thin air. I can't make real estate appear where it doesn't exist. I can't make an island appear in the ocean. Only a volcano can do that. And in the example of Bitcoin, there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoins. Nobody can will them into existence. And that's what makes them hard assets. And having them means that whenever you need to exchange them for the preferred currency of the moment, as I showed in the currency cycle, which can change, and we might be at one of those moments where we are going to see a change from one form of currency to another, you will have no issue converting those assets into the preferred form of currency. And more importantly, those assets will have saved the value of all the labor you put into earning the now worthless, out of favor currency, because assets do not care what the flavor of the month is with respect to currency. Assets have intrinsic value that cannot be taken away from them. So the point of this video is to say that if you have been wavering on buying hard monetary assets, if you are a stock person, which is okay, if you have a lot of your money in a 401k, you need to listen to this now, and you need to ask yourself the question, if things don't work out with the current monetary system, do I have a backup to my 401k? Do I have a backup to all of the stocks that I own? If we have a repeat of what happened in France in the late 18th century, a total collapse of the monetary system, and I'm going to link up the story to that history in the description, and I really encourage you all to check it out because it's a fantastic history of what can actually go wrong with money. If we have a situation like that happen, do you have enough hard monetary assets to store the value of the money you're using today to get by on a day-to-day basis in order to survive the transition? Or if you don't have these things, does that mean that you're going to need to get a second job if everything comes falling down? Are you going to have to come out of retirement in order to cover the basic expenses that you need to cover? Are you going to need to possibly sell your house, the castle that you live in order to get some liquidity back and maybe rent a place in order, again, to survive from day to day? It's a rhetorical question that I'm asking, but it is something that you need to seriously consider, because there's a lot in play and there's a lot at risk due to the irresponsible monetary policies that are being engaged in across the entire world right now. Because remember, no matter where you are in the world, this is not a USA problem. This is not just a Europe problem. This is an entire world problem, because the entire world has become addicted to free and easy money. And again, I do want to say one thing. I'm not trying to be alarmist here. That doesn't mean go out and put every last penny you have into gold, silver, and Bitcoin. You need US dollars. You need whatever currency it is you're using to pay your day-to-day expenses. You're going to need that. And remember, this is not all going to come down on our heads tomorrow. But you can prepare a bit of your savings now, today. Whatever it is you can afford without changing your lifestyle, you can get some hard monetary assets if you haven't yet. I was relieved to see that actually a peer of mine, someone I had previously characterized as being a sensationalist, as being an alarmist, and a precious metal maximalist, which means that that's somebody who thinks that's the only thing that's worth investing in. I was actually relieved to see that peer of mine say that he actually sees things the same way that I see them. And here is a comment from that peer. It's from Yankee Stacking. And let me read it for you all. He said, Bald Guy Money, oh, one other thing. I'm not sure if you know this, but I do not view precious metals as an investment. Never have. They are just wealth insurance to me. I invest in other assets, especially real estate. So you and I probably have a lot more in common than you think. And that's amazing. Not everything is doom and gloom. So if you're watching this video right now, again, the sky is not falling on your head. There are people out there on YouTube. Robert Kiyosaki, what's the friend of Robert Kiyosaki? I forget his name right now. Gerald Celente, that's his name, who are always saying that the sky is falling. You don't need to believe that. I understand that is what gets the clicks, but remember, slow and steady wins the race. And if you're a young guy or girl out there who says, gold is just rocks for grandpas, or on the flip side, if you're somebody 40 plus who thinks Bitcoin is just some fad, I want you to look at this. As I have demonstrated in the past, gold and silver have a very strong inverse correlation to each other. So owning both in a situation where the financial system is really on shaky ground, owning both is a guarantee that you will have a winner when the house of cards comes falling down. And to be honest, you could end up having two winners, because that's personally what I think is going to happen. I think gold, silver, and Bitcoin are all going to be winners in the future. And the only thing that's going to end up being a loser is the fiat currency that a lot of us are holding in our bank accounts today. If this video has made you rethink your investment strategy or the structure of your asset portfolio, that's great. I have two videos that cover, firstly, number one, this one, how much gold and silver I think everyone should own. Just as a suggestion, I recommend you take a look at that if you're considering getting a little bit of gold and silver. Now, if you have gold and silver, but you don't have any Bitcoin, then I recommend that you take a look at this second video covering the same thing with respect to Bitcoin. Watch them, consider them. Again, I'm not telling you what to do. Only you can decide what's best for you. But if it's a matter of downgrading your next vacation from a 4-star hotel to a 3-star hotel in order to free up a little bit of money to get yourself some of these hard monetary assets to protect yourself from a future where the current monetary system with which we operate could basically cease to exist, then what do you have to lose, really? And what I want to say now is thank you all for making it to the end of this video. I have personally really struggled with my voice and with my illness. Again, please drop me a like. It helps more than you can imagine. If you have anything you want to say to me as a rebuttal to anything I've said in this video, if you have a question for me, please drop it in the comments section. I am active there. Once again, to everybody celebrating Easter, I wish you a fantastic Easter. I wish you nothing but the absolute best in life. See you in the next one. Au revoir.